Phillip Rivers is the only quarterback in between drives does not look at the iPad or the playbook or anything. He doesn't look at printouts. He doesn't look at coverages. He simply takes his helmet off, puts it on the water cooler, and then goes and stands on the line.
Welcome in to the Pay Dirt Profile Podcast. Today is Wednesday, March 18th. We're gonna get into some discussions on free agency today. Before we get started, I want to let everybody know that they can find us at sounder.fm. If you're listening to this, you probably already have the URL. In the coming week or so, we should be on some of the additional platforms like iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, etc. You can find us at social media, at Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook at the Pay Dirt Profile. We also have a pretty active Facebook group, the Pay Dirt Profile Podcast. Today, this is me, Dante. I'm with
Tony,
Jamar,
and Kyle.
So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to have Kyle go ahead and get us going with our free agents, some of the guys on the list that have moved teams, some of the trades that have happened, and we'll go ahead and get into a little bit of feedback on some of those players, and then we'll follow it up with a little bit of feedback on players that are still on the market and where we think that some of them might go. So go ahead, Kyle.
I think we can start with the most noteworthy signing that happened today. Tom Brady going to the Bucs. $30 million a year.
damn it.
Yeah. Buffalo's happy. The Jets are happy. Miami, they're happy. They won't have to see that guy too much unless they get some crossover games this year. Tom Brady's going to get to go play with some real receivers. First time in a while.
It's like 07 or so.
Yeah, early on I didn't think it could happen, but I think the relationship got strained quite a bit. It's been years since they actually got him some talent. Gronk threatened to leave a couple years earlier, didn't get him anyone. Mm-hmm. They're playing scrubs out at receiver. Undrafted rookies. I think that the N'Keal Harry pick was something that was like, hey, we're going to try something for you. We're going to try and get you some guys. Clearly, it didn't work. One, he got hurt early in camp. He wasn't back until the end of the year, and that was not going to work with Tom Brady in that system.
Right.
Two, they missed on a guy like A.J. Brown. They missed on DK Metcalf just later, within the next 15 picks or so.
Mm-hmm.
So you see stuff like that, and leaving became more believable as it went along throughout the offseason.
Yeah. I mean, I posted on Instagram, I thought that the Chargers would have been a very good place for him. I know Jamar was hoping. I mean, I think the approximation of talent was pretty similar. Playing with better guys isn't always the best. I mean, if they're not going to match your skill set, sometimes that doesn't give you the best way to maximize those players. I think Chris Godwin is a great young receiver. Mike Evans is, one of the best weapons in the game. O.J. Howard presumably should be one of the premier tight ends. Hopefully,
that's cool.
He got him in fantasy. Hopefully Tom Brady can bring that out of him. But it remains to be seen if they could do the things that made Brady good. I mean, Mike Evans has never been a pristine route runner. Chris Godwin is probably the best in their receiving group, but when them running a lot of 11 type of personnel, who's going to be that third guy with Rashad Perriman being gone, and can that guy run the type of routes that an Edelman used to run and Walker used to run, unless they're going to use Godwin in the slot. So it'll be interesting. They should be a very strong team. They were 7-9, and without 30 interceptions, who knows? Maybe they're 9-7, and knocking on the door of the playoffs. I don't think by any stretch this makes them all of a sudden a perennial Super Bowl contender or anything like that, but it definitely does make them a team that they should be respected and be worried about.
I think any other division, they win the division. There's very few other NFC divisions specifically, and AFC teams too, AFC divisions that this team, based on how they were, we talked about it on Instagram and stuff today, like 7-9, 6 of those losses came from one possession. And you had a quarterback who threw 30 interceptions and 33 touchdowns. Like,
I'll tell you, one of those games was against my Falcons with a pick 6 to lose. So you could give them one win right there.
So I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of turnovers. That's a lot. You have a guy, Tom Brady, who's normally pretty consistent at keeping the ball in his own possession, and you never know. You don't know where that goes. But I mean, the NFC South has got to be arguably the best division right now. I mean, we'll see what happens with Teddy in Carolina. You got the Falcons; they're kind of scrubs of the division.
Hey, bro, hey.
But
chill.
and then you always got New Orleans. New Orleans is with Drew Brees, and it's just they're always contenders. So that's gonna be a tough division for sure. And I think for Tampa, that Brady is a huge pickup for them.
Yeah, I mean, he's a huge pickup for them. But I mean, he's going to be playing against much better teams, like you were just saying. He's going to have to take a second to kind of adjust to that. He's going to be Tom Brady, but I don't know. I don't see him doing those big type of things he was doing with.
I have a question for Kyle with the Bruce Arians connection and kind of like a Carson Palmer-esque type of guy. How far does that get him?
So that's the first thing I think. You go Arians. He's done this before with Palmer. Palmer was a little more a better fit in terms of how he really liked to push the ball downfield. One person I don't think we mentioned was Cam Brate. He's still back. Super underrated. He actually got some of the first team run end of the year. You might see him in some 12 personnel stuff. Arians not quite that guy, but I would assume I watched him enough. He's going to be able to adapt some of their offense to fit Brady's skill set. I don't think you're going to see him pushing the ball downfield like when Randy Moss was playing for him. But you're going to see the tight ends dominating underneath, I think, and then Mike Evans going to do Mike Evans things, and then Godwin has been as good as a lot of dudes in this league last couple seasons.
Right.
So you look at that. I think they're going to be able to adapt enough. They get some run game going, and they'll be okay. With the San Diego, the Chargers stuff, I think I have heard with this coronavirus stuff that they might not finish that stadium. It's not official, so I think that may have been a really big point for him.
Would they play in the Coliseum again?
But they go back to the soccer
to
stadium.
StubHub or whatever it is.
Wow.
Yeah, so
the Dignity Health Sports Center.
Yeah,
Is that what it's called?
little high school stadium. But I think that maybe was a big issue because he's not going down like that. I don't think.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He was already disrespected in New England, and to expect more from that franchise when they've done it to everyone else, it didn't help them that they didn't offer him any money. But to play in a little stadium like that, I don't think they're going to do it. From what I've heard, the Bucs have sold a lot of season tickets already within just a day or two. So you're going to see that. And then from there, I expect them to compete. If they play like they did at the end of the year, they'll be okay. The Panthers got Bridgewater, but you never know. They lost Kuechly. It's a McCaffrey show there. So we'll see. I think he's going to be okay. They're going to adapt that offense to what he likes, and maybe that O.J. Howard fantasy train will get rolling a little bit.
We all hope so. So, I mean, that's obviously a huge one. I think probably right in line there is this huge blockbuster trade we had. DeAndre Hopkins going to the Arizona Cardinals for David Johnson and a second-round pick. I mean, the Cardinals are able to dump David Johnson's salary, and I'm one of the few people who still thinks that, a healthy David Johnson is a quality running back. But even if you don't, it was hard to argue with the contract that he was making, given the success that they had with other players at their position. So it's a good move for them, but I can't fathom what the Texans players are thinking. Looking at Bruce Arians, I wouldn't be able to look him in the face saying
Bill O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien. Sorry. My apologies, Bruce Arians, if you're listening to this. Bill O'Brien, I don't know what a player could think giving up one of your top players on your team, one of the top leaders on your team, and clearly running back is a position of need for them, but I don't think it was a position of need so much that you would trade the player that you did in order to get him. And I mean, you're trading your first round picks to get Laramie Tunsil. Who knows how things are going to go with the Deshaun Watson contract? I don't know if they're trying to win now. I don't know if they're trying to, plan for the future. I don't know what they're doing. But, Kyle, what do you think about getting your boy DeAndre Hopkins, or new boy?
Oh, I've always liked Nuke. He's talented. The last time I saw him, they played against the Bills in that playoff game. I did think that Tre'Davious White put the locks on him a little bit. He's one of the premier corners in the league.
Real.
So I don't think that's necessarily exactly who he is. But like I said last time we were all together, I think that it's easy when good franchises make moves like this, right? If this is the Patriots in the heyday, oh man, Super Bowl, they're going.
Yep.
Last year the Browns, they did the same thing with Odell, and you go, okay,
What are you doing?
you everyone hops on the bandwagon, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm like, are we just this year's Browns?
Yeah.
Are the Cardinals the Browns this year? Second year quarterback who played well late. They got better. I think the most underrated part was they got rid of the contract, but they won 5 games last year. 3 of them they rushed over 200 yards. 1 was over 150, and the 5th one was a weather game in New York where it was a sloppy game.
Mm-hmm.
So are they not looking at metrics? Say we don't got to throw the ball 35 times. Maybe we should run the ball.
Yeah.
And for whatever you want to say about David Johnson, I still think he can be good.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't like him, I'm okay with that. But now they've got Kenyon Drake on transition tag, and they've got to match everything, any offer he gets if they want to keep him, which could be, you never know. It could be wild. Which basically you don't drop the contract, you're gonna have to pay Hopkins.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as it goes, we have a good-looking Madden team. Which I think when you look at stuff like this, that's where maybe you're going to get a lot of publicity. You got some guys that might be good in the Madden squad.
Right.
Everybody always looks good on paper.
I know, it's easy to look good, but
it's easy to look good on
block
paper.
someone.
Everybody thinks they're a Super Bowl contender when they come out of the draft and free agency, and they're like, hey, look at these new guys we have. Look at these young, talented college players that we just filled our roster with. And, I think that the Cardinals can be strong this year. I think that expectations mean everything. I mean, if you see this deal and you assume that the Arizona Cardinals are going to go from winning, 5 games to winning 8 games, then I think that that's fair. If you think that they're going to go from winning 5 games to winning the division, I think you're going to see, to your point, what the Browns did last year.
Right.
The Browns played okay football. They shot themselves in the foot a couple of times, but people would have been okay with their output had they not thought that the Browns were going to be the truth.
Yeah.
So I think expectations are everything.
Right. I think you might say that this NFC West is the best division in football. You got the Seahawks and Russell Wilson, who are always going to be solid.
Mm-hmm.
You can expect 10 wins from them whenever. The Niners fresh off a Super Bowl and still very young, all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams, Super Bowl 2 years ago. You may not love any of the contracts, and I know we don't particularly, but that team is still pretty much intact. So to expect to win a division, I think, would be hard to say. But I would expect them to be above 500.
Yeah.
Maybe a first. Like we talked about the new CBA, first division to get all their teams in. That'd be something crazy.
Yeah.
Do you think this DeAndre Hopkins frees up Christian Kirk?
I think Christian Kirk's a true 2.
Yeah.
He's a true number 2, who has potential to do both, play in the slot and play outside, which he showed last year when he was healthy and playing. Then you get a number. Fitzgerald as a 3 who's really nice. I don't think they've done as good a job last season as Arians did when he was there, integrating him into the run game a little more. Because that's really where he's progressed over the last couple of years. he's kind of that Hines Ward role where he's able to get in the box and block people. But when you start looking at it, they gave up a second from this draft to get Hopkins. They used a second and traded up to get Andy Isabella last year. How's he going to crack the field in any 11 personnel sets? Unless you're going to gadget him. But, I mean, he's not even Tavon Austin. You had a fourth for Hakeem Butler, a sixth for Keyshawn Johnson. You got guys like Pharaoh Cooper, Trent Sherfield, who they just isolated. Any isolation they threw to him was too many. But we went to that Falcons game, and he was isolation ball a lot of that game to Trent Sherfield. I can't imagine he's going to play. Damiere Byrd, guys like that. They are really deep in that room, but they were better. 11 personnel, 21 personnel, 20 personnel with Drake and Johnson, or Drake, Johnson, Edmonds, any sort of combination like that. So I like to see how they're able to integrate everyone, but I don't trust them. But it's a franchise thing. You trust good franchises who are always good. You can see any good team. Oh, we got this. But the Browns, Bengals, Cardinals, teams like that. Hopefully they get it right.
I think freeing up Kirk to be that true number 2 is a huge, because he's a great wide receiver. You can't argue that he's not a good wide receiver.
Right.
And to kind of give him a true role within the team, and to not make him need to do things that he isn't built to do, I think is a big plus. It'll be fun to see how they integrate all three of those guys. And then, like you said, they just have way too many 4, 5s, and 6s. Like, what are you doing? But hey, we'll see. Only time will tell.
Out one of those nightmare scenarios. You can't draft a receiver now.
Yeah.
No, they could.
They could.
Bro.
And then it's really your nightmare scenario. That's
receiver.
You would have to run 4 wides literally every play to hope to get any type of value out of that.
That's some college football shit, though.
But he could win in college. He got fired at Texas Tech.
But maybe he thinks that's the winning method. Is having 4.
He had Baker Mayfield ran him out of town. Patrick Mahomes couldn't win. Davis Webb, who was an NFL quarterback drafted, couldn't win. I mean, how many guys are you just going to waste at that level? And I know it's not that easy at Texas Tech. But it's not that hard. It's not that hard. You got NFL quarterbacks. You figure it out.
Well, I mean, we could probably wax poetic about the Cardinals all night, but I think another big signing was the 1-year, $25 million deal that Phillip Rivers got. I know Jamar has love-hate relationship with that man.
Hate that man.
Big
$25 million for 1 year.
Yeah, the Colts moved to the age of Phillip. The scheme fit worked. We'll see how it goes. You have any thoughts on that one, Jamar?
It's hard. Is he gonna be better than Brissett? I don't think so. It's and then what's gonna end up happening with Jacoby? I don't know, but
Patriots trade it back.
I think that's fair. He was there for a couple years.
I don't know, Phillip. I wish him the best. I think he'll be Phillip Rivers. Hopefully, he'll be a little better of a Phillip Rivers than he was last year. I wish for him to do well. I think he's going to be the same kind of Phillip Rivers that he was with I almost called it San Diego, LA. I think he's going to be. Still can't do it. Right. It's hard. It's really hard to call them LA.
Yeah.
But I think he'll do something similar he did last year, if not worse. I don't know about some of the weapons on the Colts. I don't know. Good luck to you, Indianapolis.
One of the most mind-blowing things to me is as someone who films mic'd up guys, Phillip Rivers is the only quarterback in between drives does not look at the iPad or the playbook or anything. He doesn't look at printouts. He doesn't look at coverages. He simply takes his helmet off, puts it on the water cooler, and then goes and stands on the line. Doesn't talk to anybody. Doesn't talk to anybody about what happened. Doesn't look at what happened. Doesn't do any of that.
Is that arrogance or just foolish or?
To me, I mean, it's both, but like, why? Why are you not studying what happened? There's no way you just know what happened every single play. You know, like you have to look. There's a reason everybody else in the entire league looks. He's the only one that does not look at a single play.
If we had this conversation 10 minutes ago about Tom Brady, be like, okay, well, obviously that makes sense. Phillip Rivers has taken him to one conference championship.
Yeah.
On the back of a defense and a running game.
Yeah.
He's been really bad. Maybe mixing one average season the last 5. I guess they beat the Colts this year. Behind Phillip, he played well. Maybe that's what they saw. That's the only. Maybe they didn't watch film of him. Hey, remember when you beat us?
That's why.
That's why they gave it to him.
Yeah, beat him in overtime.
If you ever watch like NFL films mic'd up of Phillip Rivers, there's never a shot of him sitting on the bench looking at an iPad because he simply
cheating,
doesn't do it.
Just figure out what happened. You can be exactly right every time.
Just make sure you're right.
Right. So
just double check it.
So like
they're giving you the answers. Like look at the answers.
So when I was I've coached and called plays pre-iPad in high school, post-iPad. Why wouldn't you just look? Like sometimes you're guessing Saturday. Oh man, what happened here? How have we missed that? You just go over to the iPad. 2 seconds later, you figure out what happened.
That's how I missed that.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going back to it.
I still I had this theory out first time I filmed them. I'm like, this is really weird. Like maybe it was just this one game. No, every Chargers game I was at this last season and probably the years before, I made sure to watch Phillip Rivers to just see if this was real. And again, even if you're Tom Brady, he goes and looks at the iPad. He talks about it with his coaches. He talks about he doesn't talk to anybody. He doesn't think about what had just happened, and then this dude continues to throw fourth quarter interceptions.
Well, that's why he's throwing them. He forgets about it. Hey, short memory.
I mean, he does have that vehicle that he drives up and down to LA with that has all the TVs inside. Maybe he thinks, hey, I'm doing enough of my film watching here. I don't need to do it during the game. I ultimately feel like this just increases my disdain for Phillip Rivers. This is the dude who, like, they're playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yannick Ngakoue, I'm pretty sure, knocks him down on a screen pass that he throws, and he talks trash to him all the way up the field. Number one, you didn't do anything on that play except for... The one thing that they ask you to do is hold the ball enough that they can get down the field 4 yards and you throw it. Like, at that point, you did nothing else. Eckler did everything else on the rest of the play. Number two, I don't know why you are talking trash when you're a quarterback. You're not Cam Newton. You're not Lamar Jackson. You're not Baker Mayfield. You're not any of these dudes who are juking somebody, throwing a dime, making somebody look foolish. Like, you're doing your job, and you're doing your job at a solid level, but you're not doing your job any way, shape, or form that would make me think that you could talk trash to anybody. Number three, I don't know how many times I've seen, and the reason he probably doesn't talk to anybody on the sideline or look at the pads because he never thinks he does anything wrong ever. How often do you see him throw the ball into the ground at a guy who's 5 yards down the field who's wide open and he's like, where were you? What are you doing?
Stuffs that mouthpiece right in his wristband.
Yeah, it's like, bro, he was wide open 5 yards on the field. I don't care what route he ran. He was hooked up 5 yards down the field, and you threw it into the ground. I can't watch enough of Phillip Rivers and watch him not cuss at his team because he doesn't cuss ever. He's dagnabbit,
he does get into him for stuff that doesn't seem like it's all their fault.
Right, and maybe if you watch the iPad, maybe you pat the guy on the back and say, let's go watch this together, maybe you could come up with a common ground instead of screaming. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know more than an NFL quarterback, but I also can watch football, and I also have eyes, and I can also watch a guy who's exactly where I would assume you should be, wide open, and you throw it into the ground. So at the end of the day, like, I hope that he does well. I never hope that people suck or anything like that. But I think that the Cardinals are going, or the Colts are going to regret this. Like, the Colts are going to regret making this move. He's not going to be better than Jacoby Brissett? And if so, he's not going to be $10 million better than Jacoby Brissett, because I'm pretty sure he's making $15 million. You're allocating $40 million to a quarterback position. You didn't even do that when you had Andrew Luck there. You had issues trying to put people around them to be successful before. Now you have this situation where you have a guy in limbo. Are you going to draft another quarterback and trade Brissett? Are you going to just say, hey, Brissett, we're going to sit you on the bench for 1 year and then try to play you again next year? I don't know what you're going to do with that. But I don't have any real rationale why they would make the decision to bring him in. So
I can see them drafting for the QB.
Yeah, I think I could too, for sure.
But to me, like, what, again, to kind of your point, like, Brissett, you don't necessarily get better, marginally better, if that,
right,
with bringing in Phillip Rivers, like, and are they even if you're saying Phillip Rivers is our win now quarterback, are you even a win now team right now?
I think you're as close as anyone. I mean, that division. Yeah, but that division is yours.
Yeah.
We could talk about Bill O'Brien for. We could make our own podcast about that.
Hey,
but
unless you think Ryan Tannehill is the leader of the division. Like,
yeah, and I know that they played well, but that was still a wild card team, right? Or did they win that division?
No, they're a wild card. The Texans won, but I don't know what they're gonna do next year.
Texans. And maybe this is your way to get back in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Is it?
I don't know. I don't think it is.
Maybe.
I think
is
maybe
that what
they
they're
think.
banking on?
I think maybe if, but they don't. They never even committed to running the ball. Marlon Mack is very good. He's a above average NFL running back, and sometimes they don't want to give him the ball.
I still think it's Phillip Rivers' kryptonite is. I wish I could find it. Like, how many fourth quarter interceptions that dude has thrown?
Yeah.
Game-winning drives that have just ended. I filmed so many Chargers games, and it felt like every one where they were like on the comeback ended with a Phillip Rivers interception, and I was like, come on, it was predictable, and you're just like, what is going on?
That gave me PTSD.
Go watch some tape.
Who's had a better last 5 years? We'll talk about Phillip Rivers or budding reality TV star Jay Cutler. Once rivals.
Oh my God.
Jay Cutler's in the spotlight. He actually his personality's come out a little bit.
Kyle, are you trying to get more women involved in this
Hey,
podcast?
We're gonna come watch this little podcast.
My wife said that they wanted to make a cameo appearance. We'll see if that ever happens. But.
No, but for real, Phillip Rivers has his reputation as a very good quarterback has taken a hit, and you can't judge anyone in the last couple of years, but it has gone downhill. He's basically Jameis Winston without the mobility.
Yep.
So why don't you go get someone like that? Also, if you draft someone, the Chargers, whether it was something that they were Phillip all the way, they never drafted anyone under him, even remotely close to the top of the draft.
Right.
Is he someone who can mentor a quarterback?
Is Tyrod?
Yeah, but he's just a gap guy anyways.
I think Tyrod is much more likely to show somebody like, hey, Phillip Rivers doesn't want to talk to his teammates after he makes a miss on the field. What's to make me think that Phillip Rivers is going to be like, hey, young guy, we're in practice. Right. You made this bad play. This is what you should do better. Maybe he does, but I think Tyrod Taylor he's been a backup on the Browns when he was the actual starter. He's been a backup at the Ravens. He's been a backup for a game, I guess, when E.J. Manuel started for the Bills. Like he's been a guy who hasn't really made a peep in his whole career. Is a cerebral enough guy. Like, I would think his temperament, he would probably be more likely to teach somebody, because he's never been a guy who's been, I'm the dude. Because when they have that quarterback hubris, they don't ever want to let go of that. So, like, I don't think that anybody who's been the dude for as long as Phillip Rivers would be, inclined to try to mentor anybody, and put somebody onto them.
And him and Drew Brees, I don't think they ever got along. And obviously it was a different relationship because he was the young gun, first round pick. But Phillip appears to be a super competitive, so he's not just gonna sign the 1 year and say, "Hey, come on there, little buddy, getting you ready."
And that's gonna happen to him.
Anyway. He got 10 kids to feed. You don't think another $25 million is gonna help?
To further on your question, like, who's gonna be the better reality star? Because Phillip in 20
Oh,
is gonna be
T-
an unreal
He goes-
That's gonna
TLC
be a
show.
thing.
TLC for sure.
Like, Phillip and whatever his wife's name, plus how many
Plus-
other kids?
Plus
that-
100.
Like
Once they start popping kids out.
Plus all the kids.
Yeah.
that's gonna be a reality show for sure. Like,
I'll watch it.
I'll watch it.
I'll watch it.
Oh man.
Her name is Tiffany Rivers.
Yeah. Phillip and Tiffany.
Tiffany. Bro, that's a lot of kids.
Oh man.
Dude, too many kids.
We'll go ahead and take a look at some additional free agent signings and additional trades, and we'll be back for more content. Until that time, this is Dante.
Tony.
Mark.
Kyle.
And we're out.